Okay, so we added the exponents here because they have the same base. Now what else can we do? Yeah, so 8 to the 6 divided by 3 is 2. And we can simplify that. 8 squared is 64. These are all equivalent expressions. So like on the quiz we just took, like check all that apply. Those are all the same thing, right? Like if you put 8 to the 6/3 in your calculator, what do you think it's going to tell you? 64. If you put 8 squared in your calculator, what's it going to tell you? If you type 64 in your calculator and hit enter, what's it going to say? All of these equal 64. So you would check all of them. They're all equivalent expressions. Okay, try and do example 8 on your own, or 7. Do 7 and 8. So number 8, the y stays the same, but what is 7/5 minus 4/5? 3/5. Now we could convert this. It doesn't say to write your answer a certain way, but last class you learned how to turn this into a radical. A radical meaning that little check marky sign. So what is the root index here? It would be 5, right? So the 5 comes to the front. That's the 5th root of x to the 3rd. Go ahead.
Why'd you put the x?
Sorry, y. So, are there enough y's in here to have a group to prom? No. So at that point, that would be my answer. And technically, both of these are right. It didn't say to write it in a certain form. What do we call this? You need to know the vocab. This is called a
Fraction.
fraction. Yeah, and the way
A rational.
yeah, a fraction is a rational number. So you need to know this because if it says it on a test to write it a certain way, you have to understand that. So this is called a rational, meaning a fraction, exponent. And this is called a what? A radical. So if the test says write your answer as a radical, it means this. If it says write it as a rational exponent, that means a fractional exponent. Okay. So now example 7, x stays the same, and what do I do to 1/5 and 7/5? Which gives us 8/5. Okay. Now that's a good answer. It doesn't tell you a certain way, but what would the index of this radical be? The 5th root of x to the 8th.
But you're not done.
Now, if you do write it in this form, that is not a simplified radical. Because how many x's are in this house? 8. X to the 8th. But how many do we need to go to prom?
5.
So this is kind of like x times x times x times x times x times x times x. Do we have a group of 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one group of 5. So that means that one x comes out front. And then 5th root of how many x's did not fit in that group? X cubed. So that would actually be the best answer if you wrote it in simplified radical form with a group of 5 pulled out front. So we're at an example 8b, and I want you to do x to the 2/3 to the 4/3. Okay, now I want you to write your answer in reduced radical form. So do that now. So, Trevor, what is the index of this radical?
9.
Becomes the 9th root of x to the 8th. So if there's 8 inside the house and we needed a group of 9, can any of them go? No, so that's actually your reduced radical. We have 16 and x to the 8th, two different things. So they both need to be raised to the 3/4 power. So the first thing, don't do too many steps in your head, you're going to mess it up. So I'm just going to write this as 16 to the 3/4 for now. We'll come back to that in a second. But x to the 8th also has to be taken to the 3/4. So x to the 8th. Now, what do I have to do when I have an exponent raised to another exponent? Multiply. So this one right here. 2 to the 5th, we would multiply. So what is 8, which is technically 8 over 1, times 3/4? 24 fourths. And what is 24 divided by 4? Yeah, so that whole thing is just 6. So that's what that whole numerator comes out to. And then there's nothing to do with the denominator quite yet. So now, let's focus on 16 to the 3/4. It's not that hard. What's the root here? What radical?
4.
It's the 4th root of 16 to the 3rd.
Which would be 4.
Now, I suggest making it smaller first, right? So first things first, I would do the 4th root of 16. What is that?
2.
Yeah, it's only 2. To the 3rd power is 8. So 16 to the 3/4 is just 8. It's an ugly way of writing the number 8. Over negative 2x to the 10th.
Oh, wow.
So 16 to the 3/4 is 8, right? Are we good so far? And now I have this. So now let's kind of look vertically. What is 8 divided by negative 2?
-4.
Negative 4. Now if I have 6 x's on top, remember that's basically x times 6 times, over x to the 10th means that there's 10 of them on bottom. So how many cancel? That was good. Did you see that?
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them cancel. So how many are left over? 4. And where are they at?
Bottom.
They're underneath the negative 4, which is technically negative 4 over 1, right? So there's x to the 4th on bottom.
But
And that is your answer.
can't you put a 1 on top and then...
So take it slow, take it step by, that's okay, take it step by step and see if you can get to an answer. So 25 gets raised to the 3/2 and y to the 10th gets raised to the 3/2. How did I get 30 halves there?
Because 10 times.
Yeah, that's a power raised to another power, which means we multiply. So 10 times 3/2 is 30 halves, okay? So that's my first steps. Try if you can stay ahead of me. So if you were off track, get back on track and try and do the next step on your own. So then, next step, this is technically the square root of 25 to the 3rd, right? The 2 comes to the front, that's a 2 root, it's a square root of 25 to the 3rd. What is 30 halves? Yeah, 30 divided by 2 is 15 times 3/5 y to the negative 2nd. That is my second step. So the next step, what is the square root of 25?
That is.
The square root of 25 is just 5. I'll take it to the 3rd in a second. Now we're multiplying. Everything that we're doing right now is multiplying, right? So now I have 5 to the 3rd. What is 5 to the 3rd? 125. Now, really, the order of multiplication doesn't matter, right? So I'm going to move the 3/5 right next to it. This is all being multiplied straight across. So the order does not matter. And now, you can put this into your calculator, but what is 3/5 of 125?
75.
Yeah, this comes out to 75. Now, technically, this here, if you focus, like, if this was on your test a month ago, that would be y to the 15th over, and these y's go to the bottom, right? The negative 2 y's go to the bottom. So how many are going to cancel? 2, which leaves how many and where are they? 13 on top. So my final answer is 75 y to the 13th, and there's actually nothing on bottom. So that is your answer.